Welcome back to the CryptoLabs YouTube channel. This is kind of like a part two. Me and Colin just had a good conversation regarding getting out of range and different strategies on what you can do depending on what is happening. But behind that, what is actually happening in the pool, the mechanics of the pool. Colin was going to walk us through a bit of a visual, and we'll kind of riff on it. And again, I think pitch black is terrifying if you don't know what's in that room. But if you shine a little light and you can kind of see and understand what's in the room, and the dark isn't that terrifying. And so I think a lot of people don't know what they're doing. And so they panic when things move. But if they only understood what's actually happening, I don't think it'd be as scary or as difficult as people make this thing out to be.
Exactly. Actually, and Lucas, this brings us right to the topic here. Inside the community here, I actually want to show you one thing before we dive in here. I created this "Don't Panic If" section, and basically, it's an accumulation of questions that we see from time and time again. Of okay, well, what's happening? You know, my pool's out of range. Okay, well, here's exactly what's happening. Okay, the dollar value of my pool is going down. This is exactly what's going on. Okay, but the rewards value has also gone down. This is exactly what's happening. And so, Lucas, I just want to, when you said it kind of shines a light and you start to understand what's going on, this is a very kind of high level aspect of it that we have inside the community here in Quest One. But what I really wanted to show you, and I'm glad you brought this up because I'm a visual learner as well. If you're just talking to me, I'm getting 30% of it. But if I can see it in action, it starts to click a little bit more. So we have a kind of a running joke in the community about this Mace token that I will launch at some point in my life, but it's just it's a running joke. And so I'm just going to use a Mace USDC as a pool, liquidity pool that I get in at. So let's just throw a few figures up here so we can kind of get an idea of what's going on. So let's say I enter in with $1,000. And I'm using my finger here, so it's going to be kind of messy, so stick with me. But I'm putting $1,000 worth of Mace and USDC here at the $15 mark, right? And so if the current price is 15 and I set the bottom end of my range at 10, top end of my range at 20, that means for anybody that's fairly new to this is as long as the price of Mace is between $10 and $20, I will be collecting or earning the fees that users pay to swap Mace and USDC back and forth in a liquidity pool. So really sustainable model. I love this model. And I like the fact that we can concentrate the liquidity. We can choose at which range we want to provide that liquidity to earn these fees.
And so why we look at narratives too. So if let's say Mace token is popping off and Mace is, becoming YouTube famous and he's become an influencer and he's partnered up with Coinbase and all this crazy stuff's coming out, I would want to be in Mace token, and I would want to position myself in a liquidity pool in, behind or in front of really the volume. So when the volume really starts coming through and the rest of the world starts picking up on the Mace token, I mean, we earn 2-3% per day sometimes by following that strategy. So it's all about positioning. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I always say, like, we have a little lemonade stand and we want to set that up where the people are. We want to set that up where all the traffic is. That's what we're doing here. Right. So let's get deeper into the mechanics of this. Like you said, it's a kind of a part two of what we talked about, because this is important. This is the education that will separate you from making emotional charged decisions to very calm investor-like decisions. And so just had an hour-long live stream about this entire concept here, is that when the current price is 15 and I'm directly in the middle, use a different color here. When the current price is 15 and I'm directly in the middle, I'll have roughly 50% of asset A, which is Mace, 50% of asset B, which is USDC. Now, with the current dollar value balance being $1,000, very quickly, Lucas, that $1,000 is not 1,000 US dollars. That $1,000 is a representation of the underlying assets, which in this case is Mace and USDC. And so just because you put in $1,000 right now, if the price of Mace goes down, this dollar value is going to shift. The price of Mace goes up, this dollar value will shift, right? And so it's a living and breathing thing. And actually, I said that the other day, and a couple people in the community were like, oh, you're right. That's a great way to describe it, because it is living and breathing. It is constantly shifting and evolving. It's not like a ROI Dapp where you just put in $1,000, it stays $1,000, you get a return. This thing is constantly shifting. So one thing I wanted to talk about here is, well, what happens when you go out of range, or what happens in the mechanics is as the price moves. As the price starts to move down, let's say, and it goes down to $12 here. Let's make it black, right? As the price moves down to $12, the dollar value, like I said, is reflected on the underlying asset. So we have to understand, well, how do the underlying assets shift? as the price starts to move down, as Mace moves down, the USDC in my pool is actually starting to convert into Mace tokens. And so if the price moves from 15 down to 12, my ratio is no longer 50-50. It's most likely going to be something like, let's just keep it super simple, like 70% and 30%, just to keep it super simple, right? And so now, if the price is $12 and 70% of my position is worth 12, is the Mace token is worth $12, the total value of my pool is going to shift down with it. So my total value might be worth something like, I'm making this up, but like something like $900, right? And so very quickly, I put $1,800 in this pool 3 months ago. Now at the price of Neon moving down and outside my range, the current value of this pool is also going down. It's not to go down that rabbit hole, but that's in the essence of what's happening. Price moves down, the ratios start to shift, the underlying assets are, the prices of them, the value of them are starting to change. And so the total value of my pool will start to shift. Okay. Now, Lucas, what happens if it keeps going down? Well, if it now goes down to $10.01, I'm still in range. So I'm still earning fees. I'm still earning the rewards. But the underlying assets that I have is most likely going to be something like 99% Mace, 1% USDC. So a good way to think about this is I'm basically dollar cost averaging into Mace token on the way down. And if the reverse happens and the price of Mace is going up, I'm practically selling that Mace token for USDC. So I'm almost like laddering out as you go up. Does that kind of make sense, Lucas? Kind of dollar cost averaging in.
That's why I love liquidity pools, because if you're holding an asset like SUI that I want to hold long term and the price starts dropping, it just automatically dollar cost average into an asset I want to hold long term. And if the price starts pumping, it starts selling my SUI for me instead of me having to do it at every ladder out position. So I think people, when the value or when a liquidity pool is dropping to the downside, I stop thinking in US dollars and I started thinking in, hey, I have 6,000 SUI tokens. It's buying me back some more. And I wonder if I can take advantage of this dip and get 10,000 SUI tokens. So I'm less obsessed with the dollar value. I'm more obsessed with, I want to own 10 Bitcoin. I don't care what the price is. Then when the price is going up, I start thinking more in dollar value of like, okay, time to take some profit and convert into USD. That helps me emotionally and mentally make it through. I mean, what we've seen this last week, like big crashes and all that.
Absolutely. And you said something really important there, is that you want to hold those assets long term. And I say this probably in every single YouTube video I've ever been a part of. And I say it just as much in the UIG, is that the underlying assets is all of this, everything in this liquidity pool, all the mechanics and the ratios, the shifts, all of it has to do with the underlying assets. And so if I don't like this Mace token, if I'm like, I don't see any value in it. I don't think this is a good, I know, right? But if I don't like this, well, then I will start to be emotionally charged when the current price starts to go down and I start to get more Mace tokens. If I don't like it, so what I like to say in the community is like, if you're starting to feel yourself getting antsy when the current price is moving towards the bottom end of your range, that might be an indication. Two things. Number one, you may be overexposed. And number two is that you may not actually like that asset very much. Okay. Give you an example. If I'm in an ETH and USDC pool, not Mace, right? Get rid of this thing. If I'm in ETH and USDC and the current price of ETH is going down inside of my pool and I'm kind of dollar cost averaging into more ETH, for me, that's just a simple example of like, I'm not panicking because I'm long-term bullish on ETH. I think ETH will be something that I would want to hold long-term. And so, but not to go down that rabbit hole, Lucas, but I just want to explain that to show like the mechanics of inside this pool is going to shift the ratios of the assets, which is going to shift the dollar value, because again, it's all dependent on the underlying assets. And then one last thing, Lucas, if I can just wrap it up by saying this, is that, okay, let's say the current price is now gone down out of range. It's now down below the bottom end of my boundary at $10. Let's say it's sitting at $6 right here, right? Well, now I'm 100% converted into that asset. So I'm 100% in Mace token, 0% in USDC, and the current dollar value is based on the current price times the number of assets that I have in that pool. And so if you've kind of seen our previous video where we talked about snuggle balancing and snuggle rebalancing and traditionally rebalancing, now we start to execute on the decisions we made prior of, okay, if the price goes down out of range this way, what's the action that I'm going to be taking? Am I going to be snuggling the bottom end of my range down to 601 with the hopes that, not the hopes, but with the idea that the price will go back up into my range slightly, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of different strategies.
8 hours long.
Yeah, it could be.
We did
to
film a part 2 to this,
yeah.
so I'll make sure I link it out. It just talks about different strategies and different, when you are out of range, what do you do? We have a don't panic if video. We have videos. This is literally probably 10 hours of education that we'd have to drill in, but leave in the comments, like, are we getting the gist of this? Because I think if we take our education seriously, every time we learn a new concept, the room just gets a little bit brighter to the point where eventually it's bright and you can navigate the room where someone else isn't getting results. They're in the same room, they have the same access to the tools, but it's pitch black because they don't know what they're doing. So they can't get a result. Whereas you, with the same tools, same room, can actually get results because now you understand what's happening. So each video on this YouTube channel is meant to just give you a little light switch moment. 1%, 1%, 1%. I think, Colin, you do such a great job of simplifying and explaining stuff. You're really, 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 really good at it.
Oh, I appreciate it. I think I obsess over this stuff so much, and then I'm trying to like distill it down. Because again, when I learned this stuff, I looked at it going, "What the heck is going on here?" And I'm like, you know what? How can we create the education, or how can we create these examples and walkthroughs so that it's understood in an easy way, right? Like, how can I condense all of the years of research that I've done to try to understand this stuff down into something as simple as this little diagram here?
Yeah.
And Lucas, not to go down the rabbit hole again, but we talked about it going down to the downside. Same concept applies when it's moving up. The dollar value will go up because as the price of Mace in this example goes up, the dollar value goes up. So it's not like all doom and gloom, everything is down out of range on the downside. This concept remains the same. This thing is a living and breathing thing that if Mace sees a nice price appreciation, I start moving back through the range, moving this way. Now my $1,000 that I first deposited is now $1,200, and I'm still earning fees, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea here, and Lucas mentioned this earlier, and I just want to highlight one more time, is that we want to be in position so that when things move or when things are in range and things are volume is happening or price appreciation is starting to occur, that we're in position. We're not chasing. We don't want to be running with our lemonade stand, just trying to run down the street, trying to find somebody. We want to be in position so that when the time comes, when things start to move, we're in position to soak that up. So Lucas, like I said, this could be a couple hours, but hopefully this was valuable for people.
So good. YouTube in the comments, community. Let us know what you received. Any lessons, leave them in the comments. It's going to help someone else behind you too. Or if you have something to add to the conversation, leave it below. And with that said, make sure you like, subscribe to this YouTube channel, hang out for an hour, 2 hours. You will receive value if you study this stuff. Don't just watch it, study it, treat it seriously. And what I will do to help accommodate your research and your study is I'm going to leave some videos on the 4 corners of the screen. Do check them out. We'll make sure they are timely and they add to this conversation here. We do have kind of like a part 2 or a follow-up video to this video. So do check that out. Check out the video called Don't Panic If. Brilliant video. Colin chopped it up. So check it out. And with that said, we'll see you in future videos.